I feel like I'm going to be preaching to the choir. I feel like I'm preaching to myself. This is such an important topic and something that is literally near and dear to my heart as we speak. So I want to go down the rabbit hole today of our emotional health, our mental health, and what we're eating. Welcome to the High Vibe Life podcast, where we are obsessed with all things manifestation, neuroscience, personal growth, and quite simply, living a life beyond our wildest dreams. I'm Moira, author, speaker, podcaster, manifestation, and mindset master. Since getting sober 25 years ago, I've helped tens of thousands of women break through and achieve massive levels of wealth, joy, and freedom. Now it's your turn. Let's dig in. Now that is a gigantic rabbit hole to go down. And we're going to touch today on glucose levels, the foods we're eating, and really just what I believe are like the top 4 things you can do to change everything quickly. And I say this from repeated experience because gosh, y'all, like, why can we not learn the first time? We just can't. We're human beings and we always fall off the wagon. We kind of get something and then we go back to our unhealthy ways and then we have to relearn it again. And that has definitely been my experience. So I want to take you back this has probably actually happened a dozen times in my life, but it was super, super obvious to me maybe 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, I went down kind of this path that so many of us find ourselves on, right? We are struggling mentally. We are struggling emotionally. What happens to me is I start saying to myself, like, gosh, what is wrong with me? Not a good mindset to have, because what we focus on, we become, right? What we focus on, we attract. What we focus on grows. But when we start to kind of have that inner dialogue of what is wrong with me, like that awareness of my mood is just off these days. I'm not as happy as I usually am. Maybe you can relate. I'm not as excited about things as I usually am. I'm not as motivated as I usually am, right? And so gosh knows, like, hello, I've been down the path of my hormones completely going haywire in the last year and a half. And so this is not my first rodeo. But what I know happened about 3 or 4 years ago was I decided to go on somewhat of a cleanse. Now, not some extreme like celery juice or water cleanse, but just a cleanse where I really took out the big offenders, right? I was taking out gluten, refined sugar, dairy, extra caffeine, kind of those big offenders, right? Not expecting necessarily anything to happen with my mood. I was really looking at the time for more physical results. And what I will never forget was on day four, so I'd only been doing this for 3 days, I woke up and I thought, is this like how we're supposed to feel? Is this how God intended us to feel? Like this level of just anticipation of the day and excitement and motivation and a different perspective, right? Where I wasn't looking through the lens of like, what do I have to do today? And the drudgery and trying to get through. I was excited to tackle the day. I was seeing things through kind of that glass half full perspective. And I thought, oh my goodness, could this be simply because of this shift in my nutrition? And it was. Now, that was 3.5, 4 years ago. And of course, I reverted back to letting the sugar back in, letting the gluten back in. And I find myself back in this space time and time again. So I found myself in this space a few months ago, really at another, I want to say kind of bottom, where you're just thinking, geez, I have tested my hormones and leveled out my hormones and I'm doing everything. I'm doing the workouts. My nutrition compared to most of the world is pretty darn good. And I'm meditating, I'm journaling, I'm doing my affirmations, I'm doing my visualization, but it's not shifting the emotional part of me, right? So often I talk about this emotional scale, this vibrational scale. And this is something I come back to time and time again because this is what I believe. Our physical body is at the foundation of everything, right? Think about it this way. We can't expect to go out and go on a bender or do drugs or anything to the extreme and wake up the next day and be joyful and be excited and be totally like checked in with our mental health, right? It's off. We have to kind of pull ourselves out of like either the fast food funk that we ate or the alcohol that we consume or whatever substances you might be partaking in, right? We have to really fight for just a physical neutral. And then we start to do the affirmations, the visualization, the mindset work, and all of that, and hope to kind of climb up the ladder. So I started reading just a few days ago, Doc Amen's book. Here it is, You Happier. It's been on my shelf. I've read it before, and I went back to it. And literally just this sentence, guys, listen to this. All right, this was a study done by BMC Medicine. Researchers found that when people with moderate to severe depression received nutritional counseling and just ate a more healthy diet for 12 weeks, their symptoms improved significantly. Are you ready for this? Depressive symptoms got so much better that they increased by over 32%. 32%. And they achieved what psychiatrists call remission, right? The criteria for remission from their depressive symptoms. This means that they no longer qualified as having a mood disorder just from nutrition alone. And that's not even talking about the specifics of gluten or sugar or these different dietary, substances and choices. So a few weeks ago, I decided that I really wanted to study my own glucose patterns, right? So my son is type 1 diabetic. I probably look at glucose levels, insulin levels, I should say glucose levels, at least 20 to 30 times a day. Like it is just a constant, something that's always running in the background of my mind. I'm always checking his glucose levels. Throughout the night, we're checking glucose levels. It's just a constant in our lives. And it's crazy. His glucose levels go anywhere from 40, which is really low and scary, to 300, 400 for a moment, and then we bring him back down, right? He's kind of all over the place. I mean, that's a different podcast. But I was really curious what mine were and how food was affecting that. So I went and got a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, and put it on my arm. Right now it's not on my arm, but it's been on my arm for the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to continue this practice just by kind of discovering what foods do to my body. Like, are they, popping me up on that spectrum, or are they bottoming me out? A lot of times what you're going to find is a spike is always followed by a dip, right? And so often in the afternoon when I would hit 3 p.m. and I would feel like I literally couldn't keep my eyes open. Like, it wasn't that I was tired, which happens a lot. It was that I had to sit down and lay down on the couch and just like conk out cold for 20 minutes and then like get on with my day. Well, what was happening was I was having a spike earlier, maybe an hour before that, and then it was bottoming back out, right? And so I went down the rabbit hole of research, and somebody that I highly recommend, in addition to Doc Amen, follow Doc Amen on Instagram. He runs the Amen clinics. He studies the brain. It's fascinating what he does. I swear I'm going to get out there one day and get my brain scanned. But the glucose goddess, oh my goodness, y'all. If you really want to learn such incredible knowledge, and again, simple shifts in your behavior that can translate greatly in what you're feeling, the glucose goddess is the person to follow. So I started to learn from her, but then I really went down this personal journey, myself and two of my best friends, of wearing my own glucose monitor. And so through her researching what she teaches and my own personal research, I really came up with 4 like tried and true game-changing activities that will shift and level out your blood sugar, which will radically change your emotional state. All right, are you ready for the 4? She's got some that are very similar, and I obviously adopted those the second I read them. And some of them I found to impact my life greatly, and others were just ho-hum. So number 1, the biggest one, is that you have to eat your veggies first. Have to eat veggies first. Now, this can be as simple as like grabbing some cucumbers or carrots and just kind of chomping on them while you're preparing dinner. Just getting that fiber in your body slows down all of that digestion. So it's not going to allow, when you eat that bread or you eat that, even that protein, for your blood sugar to spike, right? So guys, listen to this study. And I can't remember exactly who it's cited by, but there was a big study done. And here were the results: that when people consumed a little bit of veggie, like I said, maybe it's 3 or 4 baby carrots before they ate a meal, their glucose spike was reduced by 75%. Now, here's the radical part of the study. They ate the same thing in each meal, meaning they ate the carrots second or third when they had the glucose spike versus they ate them first when they had a 75% decrease in the spike. How insane is that? We are so conditioned in our society to think calories in, calories out. Same exact meal, just eating in a different order the food on your plate, right? So what do I do now? I always have a bag of carrots. I always have cucumbers. I always have cherry tomatoes. I always have just veggies that even in the morning when I go to grab breakfast, I can grab a couple things, pop them as I'm preparing my breakfast, and eat the veggies first. I believe that is the single simplest thing you can do to make the most dramatic increase in your blood sugar levels and therefore your emotions, okay? Number two, and we know this, but I have fallen into the cycle of eating yogurt and granola and fruit, kind of a parfait for breakfast. It's so yummy. We got to eat a savory breakfast. We have to eat a savory breakfast, even if you eat eggs and veggies and then a yogurt parfait. So number 2, the best thing you can do throughout the day is to first eat a savory breakfast. Now, when I say throughout the day, what I mean is, remember I just chatted about that 3 p.m., like we're not even calling it a slump. We're talking about hitting the absolute wall. I started to see how true that was. The days that I hit the wall, even if I was trying to eat veggies first at lunch, I didn't eat a savory breakfast in the morning. So eating a savory breakfast, meaning eggs and veggies and turkey sausage and bacon or something like that, right? Protein, healthy fats, veggies. If you can eat that in the morning and then you eat veggies first before lunch, I'm telling you, you're not going to have that crash, which is also creating this insane emotional roller coaster where you end up like I was, like, what is wrong with me? All right, so that's number 2. Number 3, this is huge too. This is like the 3rd on the list as in like impact in my blood sugar levels. Night and day. And I've got the data to show it. Walk after you eat. Move after you eat. So I looked at this and studied my own glucose levels. When I would have a meal and maybe I was in a place where we're downtown and we're not, we're sitting and we're having, coffee afterwards and we're talking with friends and we don't really have that opportunity to have the freedom to go out and walk, the glucose just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. If you can go for a walk, even for 10 or 15 minutes after you eat a meal, it radically reduces the spike in your glucose levels. All right, so that's number 3. We've got number 1, veggies first. Number 2, savory breakfast. Number 3, move after you eat. And then number 4, just simply don't eat carbs alone. All I mean by that is if you're going to have a banana, have some peanut butter. Try to eat some veggies first, but don't eat your carbs alone no matter what, right? So try, if you can, to think about anytime you're eating, even if it was like sweet potatoes, obviously veggies first, but eat that sweet potato with protein, with healthy fats, with something with it. You're not just eating it alone. And so often, you guys, fruit can actually be I don't want to say it's unhealthy because fruit's like, I feel like fruit is like God's dessert for us, right? It's so good for us. But we don't want to eat it alone, because if we eat it alone, we're creating that spike. And anytime there's a spike, there's going to be a dip. And it's that dip that makes you feel so lethargic, so tired. But more importantly, your mood bottoms out. And you start to get on this emotional roller coaster where you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to go get a physical, or my hormones off, is this off, is that off? So often it can be as simple as just getting your blood sugar levels under control and leveling them out. I am telling you, you are going to feel like a brand new person. I just remembered what I want to share with you about the glucose goddess. So this, I actually heard her on a podcast a few months back, and that's kind of what sparked this whole like, maybe that's what's going on with me. And it was so interesting because she was speaking on the podcast, and she kind of had, like, somebody asked her, the interviewer asked her a question, and it was almost an aside. It wasn't like a major point of the podcast, but I like grabbed a hold of it. Like, what did she just say? And she kind of said, well, yeah, that's how she got started on this whole journey, that she had had an accident as a teenager where I want to say it was like a very tragic accident. It was possibly even a broken back or lots of trauma, right? And she said, I healed from that, right? My physical body healed from that. And she actually went into biochemistry to kind of study the body and all of these different things. And in her 10 years of study, she really mentally never got over the accident, that she struggled for a decade with mental health issues, a decade, y'all. So she's probably about 30 at this point in her career. And because of an experiment they were doing, somebody put a glucose monitor on her for the first time in her life. I mean, not most people don't have glucose monitors put on them at any point in their life, but they put a glucose monitor on her. And she started to correlate that the days with the spikes and the dips and the spikes and the dips were mental health-wise, her hardest days. And from that moment forward, her life was forever changed because she started to link up and see the connection between how she ate and sugars, blood sugar levels, and how she was feeling emotionally. And once she leveled it out, she came out of that 10 years, guys, 10-year struggle with her mental health, never to go back again. That is a story to grab a hold of. That this is something that if you're struggling at all, just take these 4 tips and grab a hold of them and just try them on for size. They're so easy to do. And really, truly, I feel like so often we think that, you know, there's something bigger going on. And often there is, right? Sometimes we really do need to go to the physician and get all the blood work done. And gosh knows I've done that a million times. But start here. Just start by making these 4 shifts. See what happens in your life. See the emotional impact that food and leveling out your blood sugars has on your life. Because I'm telling you, it's going to be immense. Make sure you're following along with me in my Instagram stories because, like I said, that glucose monitor is getting ready to come right back on my arm, and I'm going to still continue to just self-study and show you guys what I find on this journey. So I would love to hear back from you. I'd love to hear your experience with this, anything that you're implementing and feeling the difference of, or maybe your experience with this exactly. I know I've talked to a lot of type 1 mamas that are kind of dealing with this on that side of things, but I would love to hear back from you guys. Thanks for joining. I hope this episode meets you in a place of heart, and we will see you next week.